Come on in, sir.
Well, hi, everybody. My name's Sheldon F. I'm an alcoholic, and it's a pleasure to be invited here. I have to admit, having sat through the introduction and all the beginning stuff of the meeting, I'm a little intimidated. I feel like I am preaching to the choir. Notes will be taken and judgments will be made, but I'm relatively well equipped. I think I'm not sure, but I'm a big fan. That was a lot of fun. The whole fill in the blank session. I've not seen that before, and that was a lot of fun. So I want to talk for a few minutes, not for very long, about my exploits drinking. I think there's a foregone conclusion we can take that I wasn't very good at it. I did it a lot, but I wasn't very good at it. I got in a lot of trouble. One of my favorite lines in the book is where Bill talks about many of us being dangerously and disgustingly antisocial when we drink. I was not very dangerous, but I was certainly very disgusting. I was a guy that puked in places I shouldn't puke in. I peed in places I shouldn't pee in. I said inappropriate things. I insulted people, broke things, spilled things, spent money I shouldn't have, showed up at places I shouldn't go, and failed to show up at places I did go. I was not very good at my drinking. I made a mess of my life. That's not what made me an alcoholic, though. The stories about my drinking are some are entertaining, uh, some are embarrassing, some are shocking, some might bring uh, tears to your glass eye, but none of those are what make me an alcoholic. What makes me an alcoholic is simply this. When I start to drink, I have a physical response to alcohol and, for me, drugs also entering my system that propels me to drink more than I intended to. The best evidence that I have that my reaction to drugs and alcohol is a physical reaction is simply this. If I was drinking, as the big book says, to escape, if I was in full flight from reality, if I was drinking to overcome some kind of a nervous twitch, here's what would happen is I would drink two or three drinks, maybe four. I would get to that place where I feel the freedom. You know, that place that I was much better at hitting when I was 16, 17, 18, and I didn't seem to hit it much later in my drink, and I would blow right by it, but I would hit that place of relief and I would stop. Now, I might go on a 3 or 4 day runner, but I would stop at that feeling of three or four or five or wherever that sweet spot is for me. And then as that wore off, I might have another drink or two to get back to that place of freedom. Because what I'm doing is I'm escaping my emotional situation. But that's not what happens to me. I get to that place of freedom and I have another one and another one and another one. And I drink to embarrassment. I drink to pass out. I drink to mess. There is something physical that happens in me that makes me miss the mark of freedom. So there's something that happens in my body, and I don't know what it is. I mean, I've heard the acetone explanation. To me, maybe that's true, maybe it isn't. But I have that reaction not just to alcohol. And I don't want to upset anybody. I'm an alcoholic. It's the only disease I have. But I have that reaction to anything that changes the way that I feel in my brain. I have that reaction to all kinds of substances. And acetone isn't in all of them. So I don't know how to explain it. And I don't care what the explanation is. I have in my life absolute evidence from my experience that whenever I put anything inside my body that changes the way I feel, I take it to excess. I take it beyond the place of reasonableness. And to me, this is evidence of my physical allergy. This is evidence of the phenomenon of craving that creates a situation in me where I drink above and beyond where is reasonable. Now, if that was all that was wrong with me, I could go to treatment maybe more than once. I might have to go a couple of times, but at some point, someone would sit with me and say, Sheldon, let's look at your experience. It seems to us that you're not really able to drink successfully. It seems to us that if we examine your behavior, that every time you start to drink, you take it beyond where you intended. How many times have you woken up and said, God, I didn't mean to drink that much. God, I intended on having a couple of drinks and still visiting mom. I intended on having a couple of drinks and still making it to work tomorrow. I intended on having a couple of drinks and still keeping those commitments or still, but boy, I had a couple of drinks and something happened where regardless of what my intentions were, I kept drinking and I burned my life to the ground again. And I would sit with this counselor or with this person and we'd talk about my drinking. I would go, my God, you're right. I shouldn't drink. And I would quit because it's causing me a lot of problems. But I got another problem. My other problem is what's described in the doctor's opinion so well, is that in a state of abstinence, with no drugs or alcohol in my system, I start to feel a certain way. That in a state of abstinence, I start to feel, well, the book calls it restless, irritable, and discontented. And those words certainly are accurate, but boy, it feels a little bit more intense to me. I start to feel squirmy. I start to feel anxious. I start to feel irritated. I start to feel a sense of dread. It's like the color runs out of the world, and I'm looking through black and white goggles, and it's a sense of grayness. It's a feeling of doom. It's a feeling of boredom. It's a feeling of uncomfortability. It's a feeling of anxious apartness. I mean, there's a million words to describe it, but in a state of abstinence, I just don't feel right. In a state of abstinence, I feel like there's something wrong. And my brain starts to tell me stories. It starts to tell me things like, Sheldon, you've been sober for a while now. You've been sober for 3 days. I mean, who does that? You deserve a little relief. And boy, I know last time you burned your life to the ground, but my God, you know better now. You've learned now. Uh, you just you deserve the ability to breathe a little. You deserve the ability to have a little freedom, and you've earned it. You've earned it, for God's sakes. And then I got another voice that goes on in my head, simultaneously telling me a whole set of different stories. It tells me the story of you're a piece of crap. You've always been a piece of crap. Nobody cares about you anyway. You may as well take a drink. Take a drink, for God's sakes. You deserve it. You're worthless. You're not going to quit. You've tried before. And then there's the good old one that just runs constantly. Have a drink, 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 have a drink. You deserve it. Have a drink. And I got all this stuff going on inside me. And I don't know how to explain it to anybody. I don't know how you go to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous and somebody says, how you doing? And you say, well, to be honest, I'm a little insecure, feel slightly kind of, out of place, feel like a piece of crap. I feel like, I don't measure up. I know you're only talking to me because your sponsor said you should. I don't know how to say any of that. So I say, I'm fine. I'm fine. How are you? Fine. I'm fine. You're fine. Fine. We're fine. And inside, I just have this, and I gotta get some freedom. I gotta be able to breathe. I gotta find a way to set myself free. And there's only one way I know how to do that. And I don't mean to burn my life to the ground. I don't. I don't mean to spend the rent. I don't mean to not show up at work tomorrow. I don't mean to get so drunk I'm not safe on the roads. I don't mean to do any of that. I get a plan, and it's a good plan. And here's my plan. I'm going to have one, maybe two, three at the most, no more than four. I'm just going to have enough to get that sense of freedom, and then I'm going to shut it down. And I go out to execute the plan. And it's a good plan if I don't have that first thing I talked about, that physical reaction. But somewhere between one and four, the phenomenon they're craving hits me, and I end up having five, six, seven, 10, 12, whatever it is, until I'm out of money and until I get stopped. And I have to be stopped. And I'm stopped in many ways. The most common way I'm stopped is I run out of money. That's the most common way I'm stopped. Sometimes I embarrass myself and I get pulled up on the carpet and I get forced to stop. Sometimes I get in trouble. Sometimes I get another DUI or maybe there's someone at home that's yelling at me and I run into a brick wall. But usually it's because I run out of money and I get stopped. And then I'm back there again, forced into a state of abstinence, swearing I'll never do it again. Uh, and I can't see a solution for my life. I I don't think AA works. I've been coming to AA at this point for 3.5 years, and I'm getting sober to get drunk to get drunk to get sober to get sober to get drunk. I'm going in and out of AA, and I'm getting 2 days, 3 days a week. I got 30 days twice, and I lied about 60 days once, but I'm not able to put any time together. And 3.5 years of circling this alcoholic drain. And I don't see any good news in AA, if I'm honest with you. I really don't. I don't know what you offer. I think it's something along these lines. I'm going to show up at the meeting every night at 7 o'clock. I'm going to walk in the building wherever it is. I got sober pre-Zoom. I'm going to walk in the building wherever it is, and you're going to come up to me and you're going to say, "How you doing?" And I'm going to say, "What do you mean, how am I doing?" Terrible, terrible. I feel terrible. I feel bad. I feel guilty. I feel ashamed. I feel like nobody likes me. I feel like I've got no hope or no future. My life is horrible, but I'm sober. How are you? And you're going to say, about the same. Well, high five and say, see you tomorrow. And this is what I think my life is going to be like. I think Alcoholics Anonymous is punishment for my drinking. That's what I think my life is going to look like. And I don't know how to do anything. I don't know how to exist. It's a great line in the doctor's opinion. After the part we read, right? We read the restless, irritable, discontented part. We read the part about going in and out and how we repeat the cycle over and over and over. And then the very next paragraph says, on the other hand, as strange as this may seem to those who do not understand, and I didn't understand because I'd never been through the process. As strange as it may seem to those who do not understand, once a psychic change has occurred, the very same person who seemed doomed, who had so many problems he despaired of ever solving them, suddenly finds himself easily able to control his desire from alcohol. You know, I read that paragraph for years and years, and I thought what it said, who had so many problems, he despaired of ever solving them, suddenly has all his problems solved. But it doesn't say that. It doesn't even mention like the problems stay there, right? For so many problems he despaired of ever solving them, still with all those problems, suddenly finds himself able to control his desire for alcohol, which is really what we say here, right? We don't say that your problems will all go away. My problems, I'm 28 years sober. I've had problem-free periods of sobriety, and I have had heavily problem-laden periods of sobriety. I'm in an interesting situation now for which I have no idea what the future lays, but I'm going to be able to stay sober regardless of how it unrolls, because that's the gift here. And then it goes on to say the only effort necessary being is required to follow a few simple rules. And I, like you, have always interpreted that as being the steps. But what's funny about that is that that's written by Dr. Silkworth. He had no idea what the steps were. In fact, when he wrote that, the steps weren't published yet because they were published in the very same book that he's writing the introduction to. And what Silkworth saw was this. He saw these guys in AA trying to follow the four absolutes as best they could and failing at it. And these are the rules that he saw these guys following. One of the myths in AA, I just love our history. We have a myth in AA that the Oxford Group had six tenets. The Oxford Group did not have six tenets. They had four absolutes. The early members of AA, or the drunk squad that were in the Oxford Groups, were trying to figure out what the hell the Oxford Groups were doing. So they wrote the six tenets as their version of the four absolutes, which I think is wonderful. And the reason I think it's wonderful is because I'm an AA snob. And when someone says, well, the steps weren't created by AA members, they're the six tenets of the Oxford Groups, I wanted to go see who wrote the six tenets of the Oxford Groups. Turns out it was the drunk squad. It was the early members trying to figure out what on earth these absolutes were and what what the ultra groups were doing, which I think is beautiful because it is an AA thing. The steps are an AA thing. But Silk would saw us trying to follow these simple rules in our lives somehow changing. But the reason I love that paragraph so much is because it says, as strange as it may seem to those who do not understand. And for 3.5 years, I thought I understood AA. For 3.5 years, I thought it was just going to meetings. For 3.5 years, I thought it was just talking to people after the meeting and going to coffee. For 3.5 years, I thought that Alcoholics Anonymous was just this place that a guy like me went to sit for an hour to get relief from whatever was going on in me. But it isn't. Alcoholics Anonymous is part of that. I don't subscribe to people that disavow the fellowship. I think the funniest thing that you'll ever hear is somebody saying bad things about meetings, because when you hear them saying it, they're usually in a meeting. And fellowship is one of the three sides of the triangle. I've had some terrible times in AA, and it's never been the steps that helped me survive those terrible times, although there was inventory to write and steps to do. And it's never been service work that carried me through, although there were detoxes, jails, and treatment centers that I was required to visit as part of my program. But at my darkest times, curled up on my living room floor with tears in my eyes, because I just cheated on my wife and blew up my 20-year marriage. Oh, when my health was bad and I'd had the stroke and the seizure, and I didn't know if I was going to walk again. It was the members of Alcoholics Anonymous and the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous that scooped me up and carried me through those dark times and other dark times. Our triangle is an equilateral triangle, right? I know that's a long word, but it means that each side of the triangle is of equal length. And you should have fellowship as strong as your big book program, as strong as your service program, because it's not here's another big word, isosceles triangle, where the fellowship is a tiny little line and the big book is a really long line and the fellowship's almost as long as the big book line, or the service is almost as long as the big book line, but not quite as long. And you've got this weird shaped triangle. It's not. It's an equilateral triangle. All three sides working together to support a guy like me and carry me through the dark times. What does my journey through the steps look like, and what does it look like now? And I've been on this new adventure, I think, in AA. The funny thing about being a guy that talks a lot, and I run my mouth too much in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I get to do that not because I know a lot about AA. I mean, I know some. I've been doing this for 28 years. You'd hope I know something, but it's not my knowledge of the workings of the program. It's because I'm a communicator. I can string words together and make them sound pretty, and because I can string words together and make them sound pretty, people ask me to come and string words together. So it's certainly not knowledge of the program. But what's funny about that is that I've been doing for 20 years. I've been talking at conferences and now a lot of Zoom stuff. And so my opinions get frozen in time. And I'll have people come up to me and say to me, well, when you said that, it really helped me, blah, 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 blah. And I'll think to myself, my God, did I say that? I don't even agree with that anymore because my program is fluid, right? So I'm at this place in my program now that I'm really passionately in love with, which I probably will think I'm an idiot in a few years, which is interesting, right? I think, do you remember when you were 1 year sober, those of you that are sober a while, and you'd turn one and you'd go, my God, I'm so glad I'm 1 year sober now. I remember when I was 90 days, I was so stupid. And then the same guy turns two and he goes, oh my God, I'm so glad I'm 2 years sober now. When I was one, I was an idiot. And then you turn five and you go, oh my God, I'm 5 years sober and now I'm starting to get it. I think that the cure for being 28 years sober, which I am now, will be turning 29, which I will next week. And then I'll look back and go, my God, when I was 28, I was such a moron. But thank God I'm 29 now. The real recovery can begin, right? So I have this vision currently, which is likely to change. But when I first went through the steps, step one was easy for me. There wasn't much to write. There wasn't much to do because I burned my life to the ground so many times. It's really simple. We overcomplicate things an awful lot in AA. If your sponsor tells you to write step one, your sponsor is correct. I am simply the entertainment on a Sunday afternoon or evening Zoom meeting, and I'm certainly not smarter than your sponsor. But for me, we overcomplicate things, and we ask the question: Are you powerless over alcohol? What does that mean? Well, did you want to quit and you've not been able to? Did you did you really mean it this time and you drank again? I mean, do you not want to live like you're living and you're living like you're living? Does it seem like you don't have the choice over whether or not you drink? And boy, for 3.5 years, I've been trying not to drink. It was pretty obvious that I was powerless over alcohol. Is your life unmanageable? And again, for me, only for me, we overcomplicate this question. This is a newcomer question. This is not a I'm sober 5, 10, 15, 20, 28-year question. The question of unmanageability and long-term sobriety, for me, is a step 6 and 7 question. In step one, it is, are you living a life that is acceptable to you? Or has your powerlessness over alcohol caused problems in your life that makes your life seem unmanageable? Does it seem like the person managing your life, making decisions, making day-to-day decisions, should probably be fired? Does it seem like it's a mess? It's a step one question. And for me, the answer was yes. I couldn't stop drinking and my life was crumbling around me. And I couldn't stop it. It was a spiral down. And I'd get a moment of sobriety and I'd rebuild my life and then I'd pull it down again. And I'd rebuild it and I'd pull it down again. And I couldn't get a footing in the world. My life was I was living a life of reacting to circumstances and situations. My life was a series of, oh my God, now what? It was unmanageable. So then the second question, the second step, can I come to believe that power greater than myself could restore me to sanity? The God question. And I didn't believe in God. I didn't believe in God. I couldn't answer that question. Yes, I'd lied about it for 3 years. People would get me in a corner. Well, do you believe in God? Oh, I believe in God. Then pray, I'll pray. I don't believe in God. What use is that to me? But I'm doing it because I want to fit in. I want you to like me. I think you think it's an answer. I think you're an idiot, but I'll try it. And then I get the sponsor that says to me, you don't have to believe in God to do step two. What does that mean? He said, you don't. And he showed me in the big book some amazing writings, but the one that was key was that stuff on page, I think it's 47, where we actually work step two. The actual step two in the big book. Where do you work it? You work it here. Do I now believe, or am I even willing to believe in a power greater than myself? Do I now believe? No, I don't. That's okay. You don't have to believe in God to do step two. Because the answer to no, I don't believe, do you now believe? No, I don't. Well, then the next line word is or. And what does or mean? It means the answer to the first part was no. Do you now believe in God? No, I don't believe in God. Okay, or are you even willing? Even like it's a small amount. Are you even willing? Are you even willing to believe in a power greater than yourself? Am I even, what does that mean? Are you willing to believe that maybe, just maybe, there might be a God? Are you willing to not shut the door on God? Are you willing to be open to the idea that if we work the steps, you might find him? Are you open to taking the journey, what I like to call the world's greatest snipe hunt? Are you willing to come look for something you don't believe you'll find? And if you can say yes to that, if you're willing to take the chance and go looking for the power, as soon as a man says that he is willing or is even willing to believe in a power greater than himself, we emphatically ensure him is on his way. Done. Step two in the bag. This is not complicated. We move forwards emphatically with excitement, with exuberance. Are you willing? Now, what? So, in early times in AA, here's another one of my late recent thoughts. Early in AA, they told me step two was like this: come, show up, come, sit in the meetings, come. And if you come and you sit in the meetings, maybe your head will clear a little and you'll come too. And you'll come and you'll come too. And you'll be in the meeting and you'll wake up and maybe you'll pop, your head will pop out of your butt and you'll come to. Come to. And then once you come to, maybe you'll look around and you'll go, well, they're believing and it's working for them, and they're believing it's working for me. And maybe if I believe it'll work for me. And you'll come and then you'll come to and then you'll come to believe. And I like that if you're brand new. I do. But it's osmosis. And we don't get AA through osmosis. And my recent thought is maybe step two is an action. Maybe it's a call to action. Maybe what they're saying there is that my purpose in showing up at AA is to look for God. Why are you here? I have come to believe that I am looking, hoping to see. That much like if I stop at the grocery store for eggs and the guy comes up to me and says, "What are you doing here?" And I will say, "I have come for the eggs." Why are you in AA? I am looking for God. I have come to believe. Step three. What am I going to do with step three? I don't really believe in God. You want me to turn my will and my life over to the care of a God I don't believe in? My sponsor said yes. Won't that make me a hypocrite? Yes, it will. But Sheldon, you have a lot of problems. Hypocrite's low on the list. It's not going to kill you. Let's not worry about that now. We'll get to hypocrite later. Here's what I want you to do. And here's where, for me, this thing we say in AA, act as if, comes from. We don't mean act as if everything's okay. That's what it talks about the boy whistling in the wind, right? Whistling in the dark. We don't mean pretend it's okay. We don't mean lie to us and say, "Oh, I'm fine, I'm fine. Happy, joyous, and free." We don't mean that. We mean this. We mean act as if God exists. We know you don't believe, but take the actions of a man that does believe and see if your life gets better. Act as if there's a power behind you greater than any problem in front of you. Act as if AA works. Pretend you believe in AA. And let's see what happens. Let's watch your life. As you're pretending you believe in God, let's watch and see if your life gets better. If it does, we've proved the existence. If it doesn't, they're still selling liquor. Well, how long should I do that for? I don't know. 6 months or a year? A year? Are you kidding me? I'm not going to waste a year looking for God. I don't blame you. But if we look at the last 12 months of your life, what have you accomplished? Well, if you're asking me that question, absolutely nothing. I've lost jobs, lost friends, had fights with my family, barely made the rent, skimmed along the bottom. My life's been a disaster. I've gotten drunk every 4 or 5 or 10 or 20 days. It's not been a productive year. So if I don't come to AA, this next year will probably be equally as non-productive or maybe worse. So what am I risking? Nothing. Nothing. Come and do the deal, and let's see if your life gets better. Step four. I don't have time to talk about step four, but I had some amazing experiences, especially in the dishonesty part of the inventory. My sponsor had me write the resentment and the fear and the sex inventory, and to dig in and get honest with that. But step four is a funny thing. If you ask people about step four in AA, everybody's got their own answer on how to do it. Some people have got these worksheets from somewhere in Minnesota. Some people have got they do it out of I don't know how they do it out of the 12 and 12 of these worksheets. I'm a big book guy. I think you got to follow the directions of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. But what's funny about that is that some people following the directions out of the big book think it's a 4-column resentment inventory. Some people say it's a 5-column resentment inventory. I can prove to you it's a 6-column inventory. So even the big book thumpers don't agree on how to write the damn thing. It doesn't matter. This is not about passing a college course. Unless I'm your sponsor, then you'll write a 6-column inventory. But if you're not, if I don't sponsor you, just do it. Just do it. Don't worry about how to do it. Just get it done. Sharing the inventory. What a beautiful gift that is. I got to do a fifth step with a guy today, and it changed him and it changed me, and it's a beautiful experience. 6 and 7, nobody understands 6 and 7. Don't worry about 6 and 7. They're the flyover steps. And Bill wrote so little about them in the big book they can't have been important. So we get right into 8 and 9, and we stop making those amends, and we rejoin society, and we become. They told me that you're going to buy your self-respect and your self-esteem back the same way you spent it, one nickel and a dime at a time. One nickel and a dime at a time. And I got to do that. I got to go through that process. And now I can look myself in the mirror. And I feel like I have rejoined society. 10 and 11, very confusing steps. Half the people in AA think they're doing 10 when they're really doing 11. Uh, but again, it doesn't matter, right? Some people, when I say that, go, huh? Right? And other people go, that's right. And I will tell you, the hot people, don't worry about it. It's just semantics. It's words. This is about just taking the action and search. We're looking for God. We're not looking for a gold star. The people that went, that's right. You're like me. You're spiritually arrogant. You love to know stuff other people doesn't know because it makes you feel like somehow we're more connected and better. And who gives a damn? We're on the world's biggest snipe hunt looking for God. And step 12. That's the magic, isn't it? That's when I really get free, right? When I really get free. As the poet says that uh, maybe 10 of them, maybe one of them, maybe two of them, whose hand I'm supposed to put on the hand on the door that only opens to their touch. I have no idea what time I started, by the way. I don't want to go too long. Oh,
You
I see the timer now. No, I see it. Okay, we're good. Thank you. You guys are very organized. I should have known better after that introduction that you guys would not have a timer on the screen. Wonderful. It's just another thing on the screen for me to ignore. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So I go through this process and I get some freedom. But I'll tell you what happens next. I'm about a year and a half or 2 years sober, and my life is falling apart. I think I'm getting worse, to be honest. I do. I think I'm getting sicker. I'm going to my sponsor with things like, I did it again, man. I did it again. I blew up at my boss again. I did it again. I'm fighting with her about the same stuff again. I'm sitting in the meeting and I'm in judgment of everything everybody shares. And I'm separating myself in Alcoholics Anonymous. And this is like after I've gone to him and complained about everything, and we've talked about it, we've done inventory, we've done a little 10 step or a mini 4 step, if you like. We've done and I'm looking at him like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Selfishness. I want everyone to do what I tell them to do because I think I know better. And I'm afraid that you're going to take from me stuff I've already got, or I'm not going to get stuff I want. And I'm dishonest. And I'm not stealing from anybody, but here's where I'm the most dishonest. I get 10% of the information and I make up the rest. I know things I don't know. I have information I shouldn't have, I don't have. I will tell you stories about people and events that I wasn't there for. I'll say things like, well, I know what they were thinking. You know what they meant by that. I'm a liar. I invent all of the information that I don't have. And I don't need much information. What I really need to know is how I feel emotionally. And once I figure out how I feel emotionally, I'll write a story that fits my emotions. So my emotions become justified. And then I create it. And then I will tell you it's the truth. One of the craziest phrases in the English language. Well, I don't know what your truth is. I just want to share my truth. As if there are two truths. I mean, I'm that insane that I think there are two and three truths. But there are when you're making up the truth, when you're inventing it based on minimal information and writing a story that makes it fit. So I go to my sponsor and I tell him I think I'm getting worse. And then I have a crisis day. At work, I know they're going to fire me. I have the best job I've ever had. I know the boss doesn't like me. I know they're going to fire me. And I know that after they fire me, my wife is going to leave me because the only thing I really bring to the table is the paycheck. And if I don't have the paycheck, she's going to trade me in for a guy with a better paycheck. And then I know my son won't respect me because, my God, how could you respect a homeless guy with no wife, no family, and no job? And then I'm going to come to AA, and you guys don't really like me, but you know what? You'll enjoy it probably when I share my drama. You'll probably be like, I knew he was full of crap, right? And I just know all this is going to happen. And I go to my sponsor's house and I knock on his door. And he opens the door and he looks at me. He goes, oh my God, I know that look. That's the Sheldon can't manage his own life look. Come inside. And we talk. And he says, Guys, Sheldon, you have a step 6 problem. I go, what are you talking about? I've done step 6. We did it here in your living room, somewhere between 5 and 8. What are you talking about? He started laughing. He goes, what do you mean you've done step six? He said, the story of my sobriety is step one. The story of my serenity is step 6 and 7. The story of my peace, my happiness, my ability to face problems and troubles and difficulties is my step 6. And we talked about it, and he was right. Because here's what I think we really do here. And again, this is just my current view, which may be wrong, and I'll probably disagree with later. So please don't take it too seriously. But I think everything we do in Alcoholics Anonymous is about 6 and 7. I think it's the whole program. Why didn't Bill write much about 6 and 7? I think he wrote an entire book about 6 and 7. There wasn't much more to say. How do you expand on everything we talk about? I think it's step one. We say that I have a drinking problem and my life is unmanageable. And I'm uncomfortable when I don't drink because of my emotional reaction to the way life is. Because I haven't had a step 6 or 7 experience. My character defects, my natural reactions drive me into a state of insanity where it forces me to drink again. In step 2, we say we come to believe in a power greater than ourselves that can relieve me of the insanity of my character defects, my emotional reaction, my squirmy anxiety, all of those things I feel when I'm in a state of abstinence. I come to believe there might be a power here that can help me have a step 6 experience. In step 3, I make a decision to try and have a step 6 and 7 experience. Step 3 hasn't got nothing to do with finding God. It's a decision to find God. A very dear friend of mine says that when he wakes up tomorrow morning, he's going to decide to go to work. Laying in bed, he'll make a decision to go to work. And it's a real decision. He's going to work, but he's still in bed. Before he gets to work, he's got to get up, take a shower, brush his teeth, put his clothes on, get in the car, drive, get to the parking lot, get out of the car, get in the elevator, get to his office. When he does his third step decision to go to work, he ain't at work. And all we're doing in step 3 is deciding that we're going to take the action and do the activity to try and have a 6 and 7 experience. In step 4, I write a list of what my life looks like with no 6 or 7 experience. In step 5, I share what my life looks like with no 6 or 7 experience. In 8, I make a list of all the mistakes I've made and the damage I've done and the amends I'm willing to make from not having a 6 or 7 experience. In 9, I start to clean up the wreckage. In 10 and 11, I make sure I'm still having a 6 and 7 experience. And in 12, I try to have somebody else have a 6 and 7 experience. So what is a 6 and 7 experience? And I'll tell you, what it feels like to me today is this. Something happens in my life that disturbs me. Now, I know you guys are big book thumpers, but there's that other 12 and 12. I don't read it much either, but it exists. And in the 12 and 12 in step 10, it says this. It's a spiritual axiom that anytime I am disturbed, there is something wrong with me. So I'm disturbed for whatever the reason is. I might be angry or afraid or excited, whatever, I'm disturbed. So I have to ask myself, what is it that's wrong with me that's making me feel disturbed? Therefore, I have to do inventory. Call it 4, call it 10. I don't care what you call it. It's all semantics. We can argue about it. It's exciting and fun where we prove to each other how much we know about AA, but it doesn't matter. We inventory. And if we're honest in the inventory, what we come up with is, regardless of what the other person's doing, and and they're not always right. You know, the book says the world and its people are often quite wrong. They might be screwed up, but putting out of our minds the wrongs others have done, we resolutely look for our own mistakes. What is it in my character defects that's got me fired up? Am I being selfish? Am I afraid that I'm not going to get what I want? Am I being inconsiderate, not caring about their feelings? What is it in me that I'm doing to increase this feeling of disturb? Sandy Beach used to say, and I loved Sandy. If you got to meet him, he was a very gentle soul. I was blessed to know him. And he said that if you boil AA down to its most simple thing, like put it in 2 sentences, It is that what we do is we spend our lives in any situation that's uncomfortable, looking for who's wrong. Sometimes, usually, often, it's us. Sometimes it's them. If it's us, we apologize. If it's them, we forgive. That's AA. Beyond that, there isn't much else here, right? So I do this inventory and I figure out what is it about me, putting out of my mind what they did. What is it about me? Am I afraid? Am I being selfish? Am I being inconsiderate? Am I self-seeking? Mostly, am I dishonest? Or am I afraid? What is going on here? And once I identified an inventory, I'm faced with the step 6 question. Am I willing to have God remove this? Am I willing to put everything else aside? Ego, how I look, what you think of me, getting my own way. Am I willing to put what I want? Am I willing to put it all aside to have God remove this emotional, fear-driven reaction I'm having? And sometimes the answer is no. But if the answer is no, what do I do then? I continue to ask every day for God to remove it. But hopefully the answer becomes yes. But I'm the do it again guy. I'm stubborn. Sometimes I have to really get my ass beat before the answer becomes yes. But if the answer becomes yes, then I can do what we talk about in AA as a third step, but is really the seventh step. I can turn my will and my life over to the care of God. I can humbly ask Him to remove the character defect that's making me disturbed. It's everything we do here. How do I get to a point in my life where I can be surrendered enough to ask God to remove from me the things that are blocking me from Him? Where I can humbly say to God, I'm ready for you to have all of me, the good and the bad. Take from me these things that are stopping me from being of service to you and your fellows. And how do I become humble? Boy, before humble comes honest inventory, looking at what I really am. Sometimes in Alcoholics Anonymous, we spend time trying to persuade each other that we've outgrown our humanity. I'm no longer human. I mean, I was human 3 years ago and I made those mistakes, but I don't make those mistakes anymore because I'm no longer human. I'm not trying to outgrow my humanity. I'm trying to survive it. I'm broken, afraid, insecure, desperate to fit in. How do I become humble? Continued failure. Why does God let me fail? Why doesn't God render me? I mean, I'm an active member of AA, sober a long time, sponsored a lot of people, speak all over the world. I mean, for God's sakes, if anyone should be rendered perfect by now, it should be the great I am. Surely, for God's sakes. Why does God let me keep making mistakes? Because it is in the mistakes that I am driven back to Him. It is in my failings and my insecurities that I'm so embarrassed about, but are the greatest gift. Because when do I really turn to God? Not in the meeting sharing my favorite 5 minutes, not here in front of you in Zoom land where you're all looking at me like, oh, wow, look at that. Not then, but when I'm crying in my bed because my business is about to close. Because on Wednesday, I'll be unemployed. That's when, in my bed alone, afraid, with tears in my eyes, and I go, Father, please, I can't do this, but I know that you can. And I will humbly ask you to remove from me the fear and the embarrassment and the shame. And I will bring it to you and I will give it to you, and I know you will do with it what I need you to do. You'll remove it. So in step 6, I take a journey of becoming willing and asking myself, well, am I, God, forget everything else. You've already given me all the food, all the stuff. I mean, the world is abundance. But God, when will I ask you to remove from me these overreactive, out of line reactions to my fear and humbly come to you and ask you to give me peace? So everything I think we do in AA is about my 6 and 7 experience. It's about being driven into the arms of God through mistakes, through hardship, and through joy, and through peace. Thank you so much for inviting me to your meeting. I'm grateful for the opportunity to share with you today.